What if I told you that the version of you you've been chasing, the version that feels free, powerful, at peace, abundant, magnetic, has never been separate from you? What if I told you that transformation is not a climb, not an uphill battle, not a mountain of effort and discipline, but rather a surrender into what is already alive within you? Most people live as though their future is far away. They imagine their dreams are on the horizon, just out of reach, waiting for someday. Someday, when they finally fix themselves. Someday, when they finally get disciplined enough. Someday, when life finally lines up in their favor. But here's the truth, the future is not waiting for you. It's not far away. It is here. It is entangled with you in this very moment. You see, in the language of quantum reality, time does not unfold in a straight line. Past, present, and future are not a sequence, like beads on a string. Instead, all possibilities exist right now, in the field. Every version of you is already alive. Every timeline is already vibrating, waiting for your choice of alignment. And the question is not, how do I work harder to get there? The question is, which version of me am I willing to embody right now? Because in this infinite field, you are not separate from your potential. You are not separate from the miracle. You are not separate from the frequency of abundance, or love, or peace. The only thing that separates you is your identity. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. The only gap between where you are and where you long to be is the self you are willing to surrender. You see, trying to change yourself often keeps you stuck. Because when you're trying, you're reinforcing the idea that you are not enough, that something is missing, that something must be fixed. And the field, the quantum reality, mirrors back exactly what you are. If you live as the seeker, you experience endless seeking. If you live as the struggler, you experience endless struggle. But when you let go, when you step into surrender, you collapse the old identity. You stop broadcasting the frequency of lack. And in that stillness, the field reorganizes around who you truly are. This is why the ancients spoke of surrender as the doorway. This is why mystics across traditions whispered that release is the true power. Because control, grasping, clinging, these are distortions. They are noise. But surrender? Surrender is silence. Surrender is signal. And the field responds not to your effort, but to your signal. Now, let me ask you, where in your life have you been trying, pushing, forcing? Where have you believed that the mountain of effort will finally prove you worthy? I want you to see the trap. Because that endless climb is not transformation, it is resistance disguised as progress. And resistance is what keeps you bound to the old self. The truth is this, you were never broken. You were never lacking. You were never in need of fixing. What you call your flaws, what you call your wounds, what you call your failures, these were simply the contractions before expansion. They were the shells that cracked to let your becoming break through. So hear me clearly, transformation is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what you already are. Imagine this with me, you are standing before a great river. On the far shore is the version of you you've been dreaming of, the free you, the abundant you, the healed you. And for years, you have been building boats out of effort. You have been tying logs of discipline together, hammering nails of control, patching sails of motivation. You think, if I just work hard enough, I'll finally make it across. But what you cannot see is that the river is already within you. That the far shore is not separate. That the version of you you long for is not waiting over there, it is here, entangled with you, right now. And the only thing you must do is step into alignment. To stop building boats. To stop reinforcing the idea of distance. To surrender into the current that has already been carrying you all along. This is the paradox of the quantum path. The moment you stop chasing, you arrive. The moment you release, you receive. The moment you surrender, you step into alignment. And I want you to feel this truth in your body, not just in your mind. Because words can inspire, but embodiment is where transformation happens. So take a breath with me right now. Inhale deeply, filling your lungs. Hold it at the top. And now exhale slowly, releasing. Again. Inhale. Hold. And release. Notice what happens when you let the air go. You don't lose it. You make space for the next breath. That is surrender. Not a loss. Not a death. But a space for new life to flow in. And this is the invitation, to stop clutching what you think you must hold, and to begin opening to what has always been waiting for you. In the next part of this journey, we will go deeper into how identity broadcasts frequency, and why who you believe yourself to be is the magnet of your reality. But for now, let this seed be planted. You are not on a journey of becoming. You are on a journey of remembering. And the field, the quantum field, is listening. Right now. Waiting not for your effort, but for your signal. So as we step forward, ask yourself this. Am I willing to surrender the self I have clung to, so that I can finally remember who I truly am? Let's go deeper. If the field responds not to effort, but to signal, then the signal you are sending, your identity, is everything. Identity is not just a story in your head. Identity is frequency. It is the vibration that tells the field who you believe yourself to be. You see, every thought you think, every emotion you allow, every belief you carry, they form the resonance you emit. And the quantum field, infinite and impartial, mirrors back to you what you broadcast. Not what you wish for, not what you work for, but what you are. Think of it like this: if you tune your radio to 88.5 FM, you cannot receive 101.2. It doesn't matter how badly you want it, how hard you try, how much you pray for it, your receiver is not aligned with that station. In the same way, if your identity is tuned to lack, you cannot receive abundance. If your identity is tuned to brokenness, you cannot embody wholeness. If your identity is tuned to struggle, you cannot live in ease. The field is not cruel. The universe is not punishing you. It is simply mirroring your frequency. This is why so many people feel stuck. They set goals, they write affirmations, they make vision boards. And yet, nothing shifts. Because while their mind says, I am abundant, their body still vibrates, I am unworthy. While their lips declare, I am loved, their nervous system whispers, I am alone. The field listens to your signal, not your slogans. It responds to what you embody, not what you repeat. Now hear this: identity is not fixed. It is not carved in stone. It is a construct, a mask you learn to wear. It is malleable, fluid, shifting. The self you believe yourself to be is not the truth, it is simply the frequency you have practiced. And this is where surrender enters. Because transformation does not come from forcing a new identity. You cannot bully yourself into becoming someone else. That is still resistance. That is still noise. Instead, transformation comes from releasing the grip on the old self. From surrendering the story you've clung to. From allowing the identity that no longer serves you to dissolve. And when it dissolves, when the static clears, the frequency of your true self emerges effortlessly. This is why so many breakthroughs happen in moments of collapse. When people finally give up, finally stop trying, finally surrender, suddenly, the miracle arrives. Because in that letting go, the old signal drops, and the true signal shines through. You've felt this before, haven't you? That moment when you stopped chasing love, and suddenly, it found you. That moment when you stopped forcing success, and suddenly, doors opened. That moment when you stopped gripping control, and suddenly, life flowed. It wasn't luck. It was alignment. It was the shift in identity from seeker to receiver, from struggler to surrendered, from effort to being. Let's make this tangible. Close your eyes, if you can, as you listen. And imagine the version of you who already embodies what you long for. See them. Feel them. Watch how they move. Notice the energy they carry. Notice the choices they make without hesitation. That version of you already exists. Right now. In the field. They are not a fantasy, not a far-off goal. They are a frequency. And you are either aligned with them, or resisting them. And here's the paradox. the harder you try to become them, the more you reinforce that you are not them. But the moment you surrender into that frequency, by releasing the old identity, you align instantly. This is why quantum change feels miraculous. Because it bypasses the slow grind of time. It is not step-by-step improvement. It is an identity collapse. One self dissolves, and another emerges. This is what physicists call a quantum leap. Not a gradual climb, but a sudden jump from one state to another. And you've lived this before, haven't you? Think of a time when you changed in an instant. Maybe it was a breakup that woke you up. Maybe it was the loss of something you thought you couldn't live without. Maybe it was a moment of clarity where you said, never again. And in that moment, without effort, you became someone new. That is the power of surrender. That is the power of collapsing identity. Now, let me show you why resistance keeps you bound. When you resist your present identity, you feed it energy. If you wake each morning saying, I need to stop being so anxious, you are anchoring anxiety. If you say, I have to stop being broke, you are reinforcing lack. If you say, I must stop being lazy, you are affirming laziness. Resistance is attention. And attention is amplification. The field doesn't hear stop. The field hears only the signal. So what is the way forward? Not resistance, not effort, but surrender. Surrender sounds like this. I release the version of me that needs to prove. I release the version of me that clings to lack. I release the version of me that survives instead of thrives. And in that release, you stop broadcasting the old frequency. And in that silence, your true identity is felt. Here's the truth most never hear: you don't create your higher self, you remember them. They already exist, humming at their frequency, waiting for you to tune in. So I ask you, what identity are you willing to surrender today? Which mask are you willing to drop? Which story are you ready to release? Because until you release, you cannot receive. Until you surrender, you cannot align. Until you let go of who you are not, you cannot embody who you truly are. The quantum field is a mirror. But it is also a lover. It longs to give you the reflection of your true self. And the moment you surrender, the moment you allow, the moment you collapse the old identity, the field rushes in to meet you. So let us anchor this right now. Place your hand over your heart. Breathe deeply. And whisper to yourself, I am willing to surrender who I am not. I am willing to remember who I already am. Feel that resonance. That is your signal shifting. In the next part, we will walk into the collapse itself, the moment where one self dissolves and another is born. We will explore the quantum leap, the jump across timelines, the shift from seeker to receiver. But for now, remember this: identity is not your prison. It is your practice. And you have the power, in surrender, to practice a new self. And the field, this infinite, loving field, will mirror back exactly what you choose. There comes a moment in every soul's journey where the old self begins to crumble. A moment when the story you've carried no longer fits. A moment when the weight of pretending becomes too heavy. Maybe you felt it. That quiet sense that the person you've been is not the person you truly are. That the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, the identities you've clung to, they have reached their expiration date. This is the threshold of collapse. And collapse is not failure. Collapse is the doorway. Collapse is the moment the old structure dissolves so the new frequency can emerge. Think of a seed. To the seed, cracking open feels like death. The shell that protected it falls away. But without that collapse, the tree can never emerge. In the same way, your old identity must collapse for your true self to grow. This is why surrender is so powerful. Because surrender is participation in collapse. It is saying, I will no longer hold together what is falling apart. It is the choice to let the mask dissolve, to let the old frequency fade, to stop gripping what no longer serves. And in that moment, the leap happens. You see, the quantum field does not shift gradually, it shifts suddenly. Just as an electron jumps from one orbit to another without traveling the space in between, so too do you leap from one identity to another without effortful steps. This is the quantum jump. Not the slow grind of self-improvement. Not the endless climb of discipline. But the instant shift of surrender. One self collapses, another arises. Now, here is the paradox: collapse often feels like chaos. Because the nervous system clings to familiarity. Your mind says, but this is who I am. This is how I've always been. And when that identity dissolves, fear rises. Confusion rises. Resistance screams. This is why so many turn back. They cling to the rubble of the old self, mistaking collapse for destruction, instead of seeing it as rebirth. But if you can stay present, if you can breathe through the collapse, if you can resist the urge to rebuild the old mask, you will find that what emerges is not emptiness, but truth. Let me make this practical. Imagine the version of you who lives in abundance. They make choices with ease. They trust life. They no longer act from scarcity. Now imagine your current self is still vibrating scarcity. You try to force new habits, you try to act as if, but deep down, the identity of scarcity clings. Collapse is the moment you say, I surrender the version of me that must hustle, that must prove, that must fear. Collapse is the moment you let that signal die. And in the silence that follows, the abundant self emerges. Not because you created them, but because they were always there, waiting for the old frequency to clear. This is why the leap feels miraculous. Because one moment, you are the struggler. And in the next, you simply are the abundant one. It is not that you became them. It is that you remembered. But here's the key, the leap requires courage. The courage to let go of the known, even if the known is painful. The courage to stand in the void between selves, trusting that collapse is not the end, but the beginning. Ask yourself, what version of you are you still propping up? Which identity are you still patching, even though it no longer fits? Which mask are you still wearing, even though it suffocates your soul? Until you surrender it, you cannot leap. Now let me guide you through a short practice. Close your eyes, if you are able. Take a slow, deep breath. Bring to mind the version of you that feels heavy, tired, outdated. The self you are ready to release. See their posture. Hear their thoughts. Feel their weight. Now, whisper silently, I surrender you. Again, I surrender you. Notice the relief. Notice the stillness. Notice the space that opens. That space is the threshold. That silence is the field reorganizing. Now, bring to mind the version of you that feels true, alive, aligned. The self who already lives the reality you desire. Notice their posture. Hear their thoughts. Feel their energy. And now, breathe them in. Let their frequency fill your chest, your belly, your bones. And whisper, I am you now. Again, I am you now. That is the leap. Do not overcomplicate it. Do not try to calculate it. The leap is not a formula. It is a surrender. One self dissolves, another arises. And yes, the old self may echo. Thoughts may return. Patterns may pull. But echoes are not chains. They are simply the residue of collapse. Do not fight them. Do not fear them. Simply return to the new signal. Again and again, breathe into the truth, I am you now. And with each return, the old fades further, and the new grows stronger. Now hear this, you are not waiting for permission to leap. You are not waiting for the right conditions. You are not waiting for proof. The leap happens the moment you surrender the old and embody the new. And the field, faithful and precise, will mirror the shift instantly. Not always in form right away, but in frequency, immediately. And the form will follow. So here is your invitation, stop propping up the crumbling mask. Stop rehearsing the old story. Stop feeding the signal that no longer serves. Instead, let collapse do its work. Let surrender be your strength. And step boldly into the leap that is already available. Because you are not becoming. You are remembering. You are not striving. You are surrendering. You are not climbing. You are leaping. And the version of you long for is already here. So you have leapt. You have surrendered the old self. You have tasted the freedom of collapse. You have breathed in the frequency of the new. But here is the question, how do you live it? Because a leap is instantaneous, but integration is a practice. The leap shifts your signal, but your nervous system, your habits, your environment may still echo the old. And this is where many lose their way. They believe that because old thoughts return, the leap has failed. They believe that because familiar fears whisper, they are back where they started. But hear me clearly, echoes are not chains. When a bell is struck, its sound lingers. Even after the hammer is removed, the vibrations continue. But the bell is no longer being struck, it is only releasing its last resonance. So too with your old identity. When you collapse it, when you surrender it, its echo may remain. Old thoughts may circle. Old emotions may rise. Old patterns may knock at your door. But these are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of release. They are simply the bell's fading ring. Your task is not to fight the echo. Your task is to anchor the new signal. Anchoring is simple, though not always easy. It means living today from the frequency of your chosen self. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Today. Ask yourself, how does the abundant me respond in this moment? How does the healed me speak in this conversation? How does the peaceful me breathe in this chaos? And then embody it. Not perfectly. Not flawlessly. But faithfully. Again and again. This is alignment, not effort, but resonance. Not forcing, but embodying. Let me give you 3 anchors to hold on to as you integrate. Anchor 1, language. Your words are signals. Speak as the self you are becoming, not as the self you are leaving. Do not say, I'm trying to be abundant. Say, I am abundant now. Do not say, I'm working on my healing. Say, I am whole now. Language is vibration. Speak from the frequency you are choosing. Anchor 2, decisions. Every choice is an alignment. When faced with 2 paths, ask, which choice belongs to the self I am now? And then walk it. Even in small things, how you eat, how you move, how you spend your time. Each decision is a broadcast. Choose from the frequency of the new. Anchor 3, stillness. Do not underestimate the power of stillness. Because when the echo of the old rises, the instinct is to fight, to resist, to scramble. But stillness is your strength. In stillness, the echo fades faster. In stillness, the field recalibrates. In stillness, you remember. These 3 anchors, language, decisions, stillness, will stabilize your leap. But let me remind you, integration is not about perfection. You will wobble. You will forget. You will slip. That is not failure. That is practice. A toddler does not walk without falling. But the falling is part of the walking. Each stumble strengthens the muscles. Each wobble builds the balance. So too with you. Each time you remember to return to the new self, you strengthen the signal. Each time you choose from alignment instead of fear, you stabilize the leap. And over time, the echo fades. The old identity grows silent. The new self becomes natural. Until one day, you look back and realize, I no longer remember what it felt like to live in struggle. I no longer resonate with that frequency. I am home. And that is the essence of this journey. To come home. You were never broken. You were never far away. You were never unworthy. You were simply rehearsing a false signal. You were simply practicing a mask. But now you remember. Now you align. Now you live as the self you have always been. And the field responds. Instantly. Faithfully. Abundantly. So let me ask you, here at the close, which frequency will you choose tomorrow morning when you rise? Will you reach for the old mask, patching its cracks, pretending it still fits? Or will you breathe into the new signal, speaking as the self you already are? The choice is yours. The field waits only for your signal. And if the path feels uncertain, if the echoes grow loud, return to this truth: you are not climbing. You are not chasing. You are not fixing. You are remembering. Remembering is not struggle, it is surrender. Remembering is not effort, it is alignment. Remembering is not control, it is trust. And as you remember, miracles unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you finally allowed them. So take a breath with me now. Inhale deeply. Hold. And release. Whisper this: I am home. Again, I am home. This is the signal. This is the frequency. This is the truth. You are not on a journey of becoming. You are on a journey of remembering. And the version of you you long for is already here.